Hey, the podcast guy.
Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast.
And there it is! Sutton United at the GM Vauxhall Conference have put out First Division Coventry City, winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this. But the whistle goes down. Delight for Sutton United. Sutton United, the National League, are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. I'm your host, Mike Dowling, and joining me in today's panel we've got Johnny. We're going to be talking about the exciting draw against Barrow, and we're going to look forward to the visit of Grimsby Town, who clearly, hopefully, aren't going to give a damn about this game because they're in the FA Cup quarter-final a couple of days later. Don't forget, you can help the cost to support the show with one-off donations or regular subscriptions by joining us on Patreon. If you want to know more, look for the supporters page on the website or drop me a message on any of the socials. We're going to get to it now. Johnny, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, Mike. I'm starting to recover a little bit from the 5 a.m. start to Barrow. Felt like I was kind of half asleep during the game itself, which helped. But just looking forward to Grimsby as well to break up the week on Tuesday. So certainly. Yeah,
absolutely. And then a spare Saturday. That's going to be weird. So it's been a little while since you were on. About a year, to be fair.
Yeah, the last time.
So just remind people, just anyone who hasn't met you, essentially what we want to know is essentially who are you? So I'm going to chuck in the music afterwards. So who are you? Pretend you heard that.
Yeah, sure. So for anyone that doesn't know me, I've been going to Sutton for I think 12 years now. I started out with a season ticket back in 2011. Just after we'd been promoted to the Conference South, I started getting into all the away games a few years after that and kind of addicted to it now. The Carlisle game this season was the first away game I'd missed in 7 years, COVID aside. So I've written a couple of books about the club, one of which I think we'll come on to later, the first of which came out in 2019, I believe. So writing's been a passion of mine, and I've managed to fit it in around following Sutton, which has been great, combining two hobbies. So yeah, that's a kind of quick summary, really.
Multiple books is what you have to be saying now. So just a very quick bit of club news. The women's team were 2-0 down in 15 minutes, so I did think, oh yeah, what's going on here? They pulled it back to 2-1 at half-time, and then they scored 4 goals in the second half without reply. I think they sent on some of the big guns in the second half, and they won 5-2 in the end. And I think our first bit of the silverware for the season, the under-12 girls have won their League Cup, so congratulations to them. Not that any of the under-12s are going to listen to this, but we won some silverware this season, that's fine. Before we get into the game, and definitely we're going to get into the book, we have got the Ultimate 11, the podcast, Ultimate 11. It's not the Ultimate 11, just make sure everyone understands. I'm not saying this is the best team. So I've asked you beforehand to have a look through the team and pick a player that you wanted to replace. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you for those details. But first of all, you've got the very, very exciting jingle.
And now, 125 years in the making. The Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. Sutton United all-time Ultimate 11.
It's like that.
Fantastic.
So you've had a look through the team. It's only going to be one challenge this week, so I've only just got yourself one. Who do you want to replace with who? And then give us your short sales pitch as to why they should be replaced. Or no, why your replacement should come in, sorry.
Yeah, sure. So I thought I'd be really controversial and create a bit of a talking point. So I was going to replace Jason Goodliff with Ben Goodliff. I thought it'd be, it certainly wouldn't be shorter talking points. So Jason actually played before my time. I can, certainly understand the merits of without having seen them myself. I know he was a great leader of the club around the time he was playing for us as captain. Ben's obviously been in my era. He's certainly one of the best defenders, probably the best defender I've seen play for us in my 12, 13 years. Just so accomplished, so confident. Again, like Jason, he is a leader, despite the fact he's actually a year younger than me, which is slightly depressing. But he leads fantastically. You could tell we did struggle a little bit when he was out injured earlier on in the season. Perhaps not so much from the defensive abilities he brought. I think Kobe and Louis will always do a good job as well, but he is just such a great leader out on the pitch. I think with that in mind and what he's already achieved at the club at the age of 23, to win promotion, the Wembley final, everything that we've done over the last few years, I think he was really one of Matt's first signings for obvious reason. So I thought, I'd put Ben forward as someone who's worthy of being in that team.
Excellent. Okay, well, we'll release that out and we'll have the battle of the goodies and see what people think. But there's been a few different conversations about this team, obviously, and I do feel it's going to be weighted a lot to the current crop of players.
Yeah.
Because you can't really argue with the fact that, for example, Eastie has been in 3 or 4 of our highest league position finishes ever. How can you argue with that? He's led us for 3 of them. You can't really argue about that. But we'll put that out to the vote and we'll see what people think. And I'll no doubt be called all sorts of names. But that's fine. I love it. But before we get onto the game, which I know everyone's dying to hear about how we're going to stretch out the game, talk us about the book. Talk us through the first one, which I just want to make sure no one misunderstood when I said, is this coming out in audio form? I wasn't offering. I was more thinking of listen to it while I'm going out on my runs, let's say. But talk us through the first book, which I think has just come back out on ebooks now.
Yeah. So 6 Added Minutes. I actually wrote it when I was at university in my first year, or after I just finished my first year. And the university these days, very much the summer months, you have nothing to do. So you finish your exams, you go back in September, October time. The whole summer it's just try and find a student job, working in a bar or something. Doing evenings, you've got nothing to do in the day, nothing to prep yourself for the next year really. So I had all this time and I thought I want to do something with it. I don't just want to sit around doing nothing or something. So I wrote about my kind of experiences watching Sutton in the FA Cup from age 13 when we played. We had the cup run. We played Notts County in the second round back when we were the minnows and they were the giants, which is a strange one now to look at. So it starts that season. It goes all the way up to the climax, the obvious climax of the Arsenal game. So that I wrote in 2017, the summer we lost to Boreham Wood in the playoffs. So I had to cheer myself up with happy memories. And then, it came out in November 2019. I'd never intended it to be published. It was really just something to fill the time. But it got picked up by a local publisher. They wanted to have something to do with kind of, I guess, local pride. And it was a perfect story for them. So, that's been out for a few years now. It's sold pretty well. There's copies available in the shop, I believe. I gave a few to Gareth last week, so they should be online. Like you say, it's come out on ebook. It took me 4 years to get around to doing it. We got there in the end. Audiobook. I can't confirm any details. I'm in talks with a voice actor. So it won't be me doing it. It'll be actually done properly, which is good, in a studio. So we'll see. That will be kind of maybe within the next year, potentially. It's certainly something I want to do.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to make it clear it was someone who can do it properly, not not stupid mind. The club obviously showed various different clips, and the FA Cup run featured very, very heavily. And again, that dipping shot for Roy's crossbars. Damn it, they've just gone in. But then the 6 added minutes has a whole other experience recently, because we seem to have 6 added minutes on every bloody game, and we were losing in a lot of them. I
got a bit of stick for that actually. I thought I kind of got myself in for it. I kept my head down a little bit. I'm glad we turned it around with those late goals now.
Yeah, absolutely. But the new book, which is tied in with I can't even remember the word that AB called it, quadricentennial or something like that. I can't remember what the word was. No, he had a word for the 125 year anniversary. Someone will remind us, but it was an AB word, definitely. So the new book that's come out and in the club shop now, Tell us a bit about that, because that seems to have a lot of research and over the last 25 years, was it?
Yep. So it covers the last 25 years, or 26 technically. I think it starts the 1997-98 season. So everything that wasn't covered in the Centenary book, really. They had a book out for the 100 years in 1998, which went up to that season. Kind of picks up really from there, from the end of that season, really. It's very different to 600 minutes. Like you say, it's research heavy. Spaced around telling the story of what's happened. I didn't just want to tell the story, because a lot of our supporters now will know exactly what's happened, certainly in the last 5 years, winning promotion, the Wembley run, the FA Cup. So I wanted to get a few insights to the people who were there. So there's interviews, exclusive interviews, exclusive is the right word, but certainly new interviews. Nothing that's been done before. I would sit down on Zoom. Matt Gray is probably one of the best in there. Craig Eastman had a very good interview with Paul Doswell. I mean, Bruce I spoke to for probably 4 or 5 hours. As he mentioned at the party event, we had a lot of conversation about what we've seen over the last few years, and going back as well to the 90s and early 2000s. Spoke to Tony Raines, Gwyn Berry, who captained the side, promoted to the conference, I think, but he was certainly a big part of it. Just to get those insights from behind the scenes, and it provides a kind of a unique view on what happened, which I was quite pleased with how that came out. I didn't want to just write down what happened.
Yeah,
because I don't think I could do justice to. I certainly couldn't do justice to it myself. So it's got that kind of different view, and some of the interviews. I mean, Matt's interview in particular. I mean, he's certainly wears his heart on his sleeve. I love his passion. And it was the day after Grimsby away, actually, and I was a little bit hungover, and I was thinking, okay, I know this is going to be like a little bit of an emotional interview. I'm an emotional person. I cried when we won the league, said that I wouldn't. Cried in the FA Cup run. Cried when we won. I was like, right, okay, I've got to try and keep it together for this interview. So I sat down, and we got halfway through. It was going pretty well, and then Matt starts telling the story. I won't give too many details because you got to buy the book. But he starts telling the story from a certain point of the season when we won the league, and he just starts. He's getting teary himself, and I'm sat there, I'm doing the same, and we both just sat there crying our eyes out on a Zoom call for a few minutes before we got on with the interview. So it's that kind of book. It's it is, I guess, quite emotional at times, and it's just a tribute really to everything that we've done, and there's so much that we've done over the last 25 years and the 100.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the names I've spoken to as well, and others. I always find it fascinating. You sit there, you chat to me. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going on a bit, and you're like, no, crack on, this is great. Keep talking. And yeah, Matt, it was the meet the manager after the promotion season. He got emotional again. And even at the party, he started getting himself a bit emotional. You're like, come on, you're supposed to be this big, scary bloke. What's wrong with you? But yeah, so the book is in the club shop. Yep. £15, I want to say. I can't remember.
Yeah, £15. Yeah. They printed 400 copies as well. Mm-hmm. So that's all that there will be in the print. And I think they're probably certainly they were close to halfway through at the Crew game. So 200 copies left to grab yourself a one. But I will try and sort out an ebook quicker than I did 15 minutes. So there will be that option.
But before the 150 years. I've seen it. It's travelled. I know that. Because there's been various people on my Twitter feed taking the book to various different places, and it's like, that's good to see. So you must be very proud of it. And everyone who's read it. I mean, you've got a few, let's say, old timers who supported the club for a lot longer than either of us, who are all saying, yeah, that's a really good book, that's brilliant. You've got people like Dave coming out saying, yeah, it's an absolutely brilliant job, and he's been around the club for an awful long time.
Dave wrote half of it.
I think he was.
Dave and Tony did help out a lot. So I'm more of a co-writer than an exclusive writer on that.
He never mentioned that. He said you wrote this.
Everything before 2011 is very heavily influenced by Dave and Tony Tolbert. So yeah, they've done a great job, and it looks fantastic as well. I have nothing to do with that. So it's credit to a lot of people, not just myself.
How very Sutton United, everyone's passing around the credit, going, no, it's him. No, it's Dave, it's not me. Because Matt does that as well all the time with Jason and Terry. And come on, someone's got to put it all together. So you mentioned, obviously, your 13 years. You're kind of like the line of people that are like so jealous of you guys. Everyone's come on. Yeah, absolutely. And all these young ones, we're all going, no, it's not always like this. And you're sitting there going, no, honestly, it's been fine for the last 13 years. It's been great. It's been wonderful. Right, let's quickly talk about the match. What were your expectations? I know you booked your tickets, I know you booked your travel. Did you think you were going to get? Where did you think you were going to get to before it was called off?
I'd actually looked at what other game I was going to go to if it did get called off. We were looking at Preston Cardiff. So I'd gone that far. I mean, the weather forecast, I looked at Tuesday or Wednesday the week before, and it looked horrendous. It was just like rain every single day. I thought, no way, this is going to go on. Even Preston in the Championship, like they're going to have to do a bit of work. Got up there and it was fine. Like they'd done a great job. I saw on Twitter there was I think a family from Sutton had helped clear the pitch, which is like that's it.
So I think he went on to Amber Planet as well, and he'd said that they'd gone up the night before, and they decided that they went down and spent 3 hours helping clear the pitch. Great.
The beauty of lower league football. Fair play to them. They've done a brilliant job. The pitch played fine. It didn't look like there was any. So just glad we didn't have to go up on a Tuesday night again, to be honest.
Again, yeah, because you were one of the. It's a bit undecided if it was 13 or 14.
Yeah, it's a disputed
I can't actually remember.
It was there was. I think there was like 13 in the terrace, but there might have been a few in the stands. And there are a few directors that went up. I went up in Ray Ward's car, and he wouldn't have been part of the attendance because he was in the director's box. But there was, I think the Sutton 13 is the agreed upon figure in the end.
13 and a half.
Yeah.
That wasn't that many years ago. So when all these Twitter accounts are sort of slagging off, going, oh look, they've only got this many fans. It's like, yeah, well, then long ago we had 13 at Barrow, so just leave us alone. Matt threw a bit of a curveball with the lineup. Were you expecting that many changes? Because he doesn't normally do that.
No, to be honest. I guess with the Grimsby game on Tuesday in mind and played Saturday, Tuesday as well in the last week, perhaps it kind of, I guess, made sense. I wasn't expecting to see Enzo on the left. That was the one that threw me because he's done very well for us, mostly in the right back position this season. I do think he struggles on that left hand side. It's just that he lacks the option on his left foot, which Will's developed really well over the last couple of years. So that was the one that threw me. Otherwise, I think changing the strikers is to be expected. They seem to put in they get the job where they're doing a lot of running, a lot of battling. Omar going up for headers a lot of the time, and the rest kind of makes sense. But yeah, it's like you say, it is unusual for Matt. I mean, it certainly didn't work out too badly. I think pretty solid throughout the game. Granted, we didn't particularly look like scoring, but neither did Barrow. I think a point up there is not a terrible.
No, I think I do a little thing as we get to this time of the season. I start looking at the games, going, right, we'll have this, we'll have this, we'll have this, we'll have this, and I think I put a point there as well. Even as I said, he doesn't normally do it. Just actually thinking about it, he hasn't had much option of changing things around because we barely have any fit players. But the strikers situation, as you said, it's getting to be quite good at the moment because we've got strikers who seem to be similar, but then they all offer something different. Like Donovan battles away, but he tends to drift out wide. But then Matt battles away and tends to stay in the middle. So switching them around will be really handy in the running because the defenders won't really know what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think keeping fresh legs on it is key as well. I mean, subbing the strikers after an hour seems to be a kind of trademark thing to do, but it makes sense. As a defender, just to play centre back myself, you play 60 minutes against someone, you start to feel like you're getting a measure of them. If you're keeping it 0-0, for example, as well, and it would be a big curveball for yourself as a defender if you're changing, say, Donovan for Matt, where the style of play is slightly different. And even if the style of play is more similar, just the fresh legs, that burst of energy in the last 10 minutes to get to a header or a through ball, just pressure defenders into making mistakes. You remember the first goal at Mansfield last season, probably not the best example because it was, I think, the first 10 minutes. But that sort of thing, where you've got fresh legs on the pitch, challenge the defenders and just make their lives difficult. So I think it's useful to have 5 strikers in the squad, like you always seem to do at any one time. Yeah,
I mean, he's good, and I know some of them seem similar or asked to do similar roles. I mean, the one thing I don't think Matt makes overly clear to everyone, he doesn't shy away from it, but he only says it every now and then that he doesn't judge his strikers on goals. And he says, yeah, I know they're not scoring goals, but that's not what they're there to do. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we're sitting there going, oh, this one's only scored this many goals in this many games. I don't care what he's doing on goals. I've got other roles for him. But yeah, not the most exciting of games. We got the point, which probably would have taken beforehand. I think, as we said beforehand, they did very well to get 2 minutes of highlights. But the only shot on goal, I believe, was from them, and it came when we should have had a free kick. So
Yeah.
the ref was looking right at it. I don't understand.
I mean, they put that in the highlights, I noticed, and it gets worse every time you watch it. I've no idea what he was thinking. And the linesman, I think, was stood on that side right in front of it, so you've got to be looking at that. So he was poor, I thought, the whole afternoon. It was a lot of similar things like that he missed. Very inconsistent with the decision. I think it was a frustrating. The game never got going. It was very stop-start, and he gave stuff to things, the things he missed. So it didn't help the game, certainly. It's interesting that you mentioned the one shot on target. I'm sure the one. I thought there was two. I thought Jack made two saves. I'd love to be.
Okay.
Proven either right or wrong on the highlights. I think I haven't actually watched them back properly, or the quick views. There was a long range shot after about 5 deflections in the middle where he's tipped it wide, and then the one on the foul on Dave. I feel like I couldn't tell if it was Jack's save or the defender. But if Jack saved it, I think it was a good save. If he did, then that's 2 shots on target aim. So still none for us.
Well, the Google stats are saying they had 10 shots with 1 on target. We had 9 shots with none on target. So
it certainly wasn't a classic either way.
No. But again, a point at Barrow, you can't really argue against it. You'd have taken it beforehand, I guess. And the weather was not the nicest, never is. But we do need to, and I'm sorry about this, we have to pick some players for the Player of the Day poll. So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to think about who your first choice would be. I've got some choices here as well, but I'll give you a couple of seconds just to think of your first choice as we decide our Player of the Day.
Now watch me do my dance. I'm the Player of the Day.
So give us a first shout out for your Player of the Day.
Sam Hart at left back, I think. He's got to be a defender from a nil with no shots on target, and I think he was excellent again. So I would say.
Yeah, I very much like to work because I like to watch the match back on the iFollow replay thing, and I think although none of them were on target, to see your left back marauding forward and having shots, it's like, oh, blimey, that's interesting. Yeah. I'd agree there. I thought once again, Kobe did well.
Yep.
Little bit gutted he couldn't score to just add to my collection of Kobe celebrations, one in each colour shirt. I thought Kobe did well there as well. I should have gone first because I've got a third choice, which I suspect you're going to take, and I'll have to quickly think of a fourth. But who's your second choice?
I mean, it would be easy to pick another defender. I'll mix it up a little bit. I'll go for Ali to mix it up a little bit.
Okay.
So hopefully give you your second choice.
I thought my second.
He did very well again in midfield. Solid, like Matt says a lot of the time. The rest of the players, when you see them in interviews, that to keep a clean sheet, it starts from higher up the pitch, and they didn't really get through onto our defenders too much. Yeah, I think Ali again was a big part of that. So
yeah, I think he's done superbly. When he had to come in last season a little bit probably ahead of when they wanted him to, and to just pick it up and go, okay, and then keep Harry out on the side. He's like, whoa, he must be something special. Well, you didn't pick the other player I was thinking of, which was Jack again. Yeah. So I thought he done well when called on. So although there wasn't shots on target necessarily, he was kind of marshalling everything and keeping everything. I think he's done brilliantly. Start of the season, there was a lot of comparison to he's not Dino, but now I don't think anyone's going he's not Dino. he's definitely made that spot his own.
Certainly.
And done brilliantly. And as I said, not bad for a shit Lewis Ward. Apparently, after the Swindon game when they were singing that to him, he had done his SUFC TV interview and went back into the changing room, and the players were singing that to him. Good stuff. Okay, we'll put that out for the vote as well. And very, very quickly, I spoke to Alex from the DN35 Podcast earlier, and I'm going to slot that in here. And joining me now is Alex from the DN35 Podcast. Hello, Alex. How are you?
Yeah, good evening. Not too bad, thanks. How about yourself?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for being able to fit me in. I'm pretty sure it's a fairly busy week coming up for you.
Just a bit. Yeah. It's not too bad. Absolutely. It's probably the strangest. Well, one of the strangest weeks I've had. But it's one of these things. It's probably going to end in I'm going to be a little bit sad by the end of it, but I'm going to enjoy the build up.
We'll come on to that in a moment, but tell us a little bit about yourself, your Grimsby history, and a bit about your podcast. Essentially, it's who are you?
Oh, right. Yeah, fine. So I've been doing our podcast for about seven years or so. It started when me and my mate Henry, who just by chance ended up sitting next to each other during what was regarded the worst season Town ever had, 25 games without a win. And it was the only thing that kept me going through it. So we decided to keep other people busy and thought, we've got an ego big enough the way we think people actually want to listen to what we have to say. The club itself is the most entertaining football club on the planet, bar none. The most promoted and relegated football club in English football, with a penchant for inflatable fish and for fish puns. We never do anything by halves, and that's why this season is driving everyone mad. So we thought we'd put a bit of an FA Cup quarter final in there just to keep everyone sane, because we're either fighting for promotion and the greatest team in the land, or we're fighting against relegation and getting, sending ourselves down to the deep. And I think that leaves a lot of Town fans with a few issues, mentally speaking. They're not okay with okay. It freaks them out a little bit, and everyone starts being nervy even now. And so that's probably where we are. And it's not bad. The content is pretty rich, so I have to thank the club for that. Though now we're run pretty well. The content has taken a nosedive, and I really do put the blame of that at the feet of the new owners for being competent.
Outrageous people.
Yeah.
Stern letter of complaint.
Yeah, exactly. Do more crazy crap.
So yeah, I mean, your season league-wise, well, if you win every game in hand, just kind of almost back up there, but that's a bit of an ask, because you're was it 4 or 5 games behind now?
And it'll be more by the end of next week as well.
Yeah. But so yeah, we kind of I kept looking at the table thinking, right, well, they can catch us, and I think it's only recently that we're like, oh, actually, they can't catch us if they win every game in hand. But in the league this season, as you've mentioned, has been a bit kind of mediocre. But what's been your ups and downs league-wise?
We started well, I guess. We haven't had our full our full selection of 11 that we'd probably want throughout the season. And though we started well, we lost Ryan Taylor, who I think a lot of people, myself included, weren't massively in love with, but as a hold-up player, not an incredibly effective striker, it really worked. And when he came injured sort of around October time, it was really noticeable. And we've struggled since then. John McAtee, who came back from a shoulder injury sort of towards January, we thought that, well, it's fine. If Taylor's gone, he'll be great. And it hasn't really worked out that way. Which is a shame. He hasn't sort of lived up to the same sort of ability that he had last season, though he scored a cracker on the Tuesday just gone. But it's been a case of just wondering whether or not we've got everything in place. It's certainly a building year. We don't have that striker and that everybody needs. I think we're missing a little bit of leadership in the middle of the park. We don't have any pace, which I think is a big problem for us. Most League Two teams at least have someone who's athletic, terrible at football, but is just really quick. We don't have that. And I think we sadly missed that, especially on break. So we're not a particularly effective counter-attacking team, which is a problem when that's how we play. But in all honesty, it's been we've had such a terrible run with our old owners and everything else that if we finish 13th this season, it's our highest finish since 2005. So it's a huge opportunity to do that. I think that's within reach. And I would probably want to look at aiming for 12th just so we can be in that top half.
Yeah.
But that's sort of where my aims are. We have a few games in hand. We look knackered. And up until now, and I think to the end of the season, it is now Tuesday, Saturday. That's only going to be made worse when we get to the FA Cup final. And we're going to have to push a few games around because of that. Yeah. And then we've got to worry about Europa League qualification.
Yeah. Well,
it's just a pain. It's just a pain.
Absolutely. I mean, I did. We're obviously going to talk about your cup round. I mean, I did like the tweet that you put out about a 50% win rate against Premier League clubs, which is only beaten by blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I think it was the real EFL said, oh, come on, you're pushing it. And I'm like, yeah, I would have been going back over the last 5 years going, we've beaten more teams over the last 5 years, 50% win rate. But how is that kind of being? I mean, we had our own little run, 6 years ago where we didn't get to the quarterfinals because we had Arsenal standing in our way.
It was all that patronising stuff, weren't they, about your fat keeper, fat goalie coach?
Yeah. I don't like talking about that.
Yeah,
but
fair enough.
But it kind of spoiled the whole. Well, not spoiled it, but it took away.
It does,
a lot. And we were playing Arsenal. And yes, we had 125th birthday the other week, and I showed a clip of various different games. I showed the clip of Rory Deacon almost breaking the crossbar with a shot, and it's like, if that had just dipped in, Arsenal would have been. They were 2-0 up, but if that had gone in, they would have been rocked, and they would all sorts. Because at the time, it was towards the end of Wenger's reign, and they were being battered left, right, and centre. So
yeah,
damn it. But you mentioned when it's over, you'll be in tears. I think when it kind of ended for us, it was a little bit of a, oh, thank God that's finished now. It was just crazy. So what's it been like? Sort of, I mean, the quarterfinals. I think I read. Is it 1939 was the last time you quarterfinals?
84 years. Yeah, we got to the semi-finals. Then we hold the record attendance at Old Trafford. Still do for the FA Cup semi-final. And my opinion, only slightly tongue in cheek, is that the FA Cup treats us with disrespect. And if we win it, I'm doing exactly what Sergio Ramos did to the Spanish Cup. I'm running it over with a bus, because that piece of tin treats us terribly. Ever since then, so that FA Cup semi-final, our goalkeeper got injured. I think he broke his arm or something, had to go off, and then they played with 10 men and no goalkeeper because there was no subs, and lost 5-0. And ever since then, it's just treated us, appallingly. And this FA Cup round, this draw has shown that all the way through. So you get the FA Cup first round draw, you get the worst team you could possibly get, which is Plymouth Argyle, runaway league leaders in League One, the toughest opponents you can get, smash them. Then we get, let's get someone easy. Let's get Alvechurch or Farnborough or someone like that. Nope.
Yeah. We stopped with the Farnborough nonsense. They knocked us out.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, I was watching it because I live near there going, that'd be quite nice if I got Farnborough away. And then we get who do we get? We got Cambridge, and Cambridge were the last team we played the last time we got relegated to non-league. Then we got Burton in the third round, who were the last team we played in 2010 when we got relegated to non-league. And then we're like, all right, FA Cup fourth round. This is going to be great. We're going to get a decent tie now. And we got Luton, which is probably the only ground that's worse than Blundell Park. And it's a team that we've all played recently, so it's like brilliant. And then we got Southampton, which was all right. I guess that was a good, but it's midweek. Southampton, South Coast for everyone. And then we haven't had that big boy yet. And we haven't had, and I imagine this is what's going to go. If the FA Cup really hates us, it's going to go, we're going to beat Brighton. Then we're going to get Man City in the semi-finals, because you can't get anyone harder. And it doesn't matter by then, because you're just at the semi-finals, and then you'll be gutted you missed out on the final. Then we'll get to the final and we'll play someone like Sheffield United. So it'll be a really disappointing cup tie for everybody else, and it won't get as much coverage. And then we'll win it, and we'll still be going. I'll be still be going. Oh, this is terrible. This FA Cup's this.
Awful.
Yeah.
You've got to look at the whole situation with European spots for the FA Cup. We can't let it happen.
Yeah, and then we're the only team. We keep joking. We're the only team that's going to have to rearrange and get a game with Crawley next season, because we've got Fenerbahce away.
You won't need to rearrange.
No, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I mean, the Southampton. Strangely enough, I know you did the podcast with the Southampton guys. One of them's a Sutton supporter as well.
Oh, okay.
And he messaged me afterwards and he said, "Oh, you need to get this fella on." I was like, "Yeah, I've already been there, done."
Yeah.
But how's your player? I know it was a terrible challenge in the box. He went
Could have
down.
been killed.
His spine looked broken. It's just absolutely shocking.
I keep tweeting him Voltarol adverts.
I mean, even the Southampton squad was like, "Yeah, it was a penalty." There's no doubt about it. But
I did go back and listen to their thing, because when you do that, you consume everything, don't you? And they were a little bit bitter, and it was quite enjoyable, really. Like that, if we can get under the skin of Southampton, they were quite aggy throughout the game, especially when they equalised, and it was chalked off by Theo Walcott's goal. That was quite enjoyable.
Yeah. You spend your whole life hating VAR, and then suddenly go, "Way!"
Our only experience of VAR before that is we played a game against Palace, and we had a man sent off after 40 seconds from it. So I was a bit nervous about really going into it, but now I really like it. I think it's great. Wait till Sunday.
Honestly, we've had a couple of decisions this year, and they've gone against us, because you only really remember the decisions that go against you. Let's be honest. And as I'm looking at them all, I'm like, do you know what? If we had VAR, that wouldn't have happened. And then I'm like, on balance, I'd rather lose 4 or 5 points a season than have VAR coming in.
Yeah.
It's just, no, you're all right. Thanks.
Could you imagine it as well? Because there's no, like at Harrogate or somewhere,
Yeah.
and there's not even a screen to tell you what's happening.
Yeah.
And you just stood around because Trevor Kettle's been an idiot again.
Come grab my phone. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's just looking on an iPad in a corner.
So, I mean, we spoke about the rearranged games, and obviously, the minute you got through, we were all like, oh, hang on a minute, when the hell are we going to fit it in? Because we've got a few midweeks, and we only had like 2 or 3 dates spare, one of which I was begging it for it not to be, because I've actually got a good chat with someone from a local charity that planned to go out. I was like, oh, God, that's the date it has to go out because it all fits in. I was like, I can't have it. So you guys have had to have it played Tuesday before, which is fairly unusual in itself to move it a few days early. But what are you lot thinking of the team you're going to be putting?
Well, this week, I mean, just have the points, just have the win. No one cares.
Well,
let's just shake hands now. 1-0, save the trip. And just don't. All we just want is just don't hurt us. Like, just don't. And I think there's going to be a lot of players going, you can have the ball. It's fine. Don't you worry about it. We're not going anywhere in this league. It's absolutely fine where we are. And I think to struggle for some to understand that we're, this season is now written off, and that's fine. But there'll be a couple of players that are our cup tied that will play. But even last week, even yesterday's win against Rochdale, there's a fair few changes in that. I'd expect the same again on Tuesday as well. But it's still quite a way between the games. So if they want to put out a full strength squad, they can do. I just don't see the point. Just don't risk it. Just put out, I don't know, just send Crawley or something to play you instead, and we'll just stay at home. But I don't know. I assume we're probably coming down and then staying down here after that, because there's no point in then all driving all the way back up north to go back again.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's.
So I see just behind you, you've got Harry. I did note again from your retweets that Brighton are pushing their seagulls.
They are, and then they've banned the drum as well, which is a bit,
I'm on board with that. That's fine.
No, well, do you know what? I like the drum. I think it works. If you've got a good drummer, a lot of our songs are like, a bit marchy. So I don't really mind it. And it does work in a large crowd, because if we do take quite away from home, and I was expecting to go this week, but it's just the cost this month has just been sensational.
Yeah.
And I'm off to the England-Ukraine game later this month as well. So it's like, I probably can't do Sutton and Crawley because I've got an FA Cup final ticket to save for. But it's just been a bit of a. I don't expect us to take that many. We've got quite a lot of London exiles, as you can imagine, so there'll be a fair few going anyway. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know. I like a drum. When we take a big crowd, it helps keep everyone in tune, because usually one side's singing one song and another side's singing another, it just becomes a bit dirgy. And I don't know if it's the same with you guys, but it's like the old people game. The old people shout is that the chants are now too quick, and I think they've just got old, and time is just slowing down. It'll be nice to have that bit of a distraction beforehand to play you guys. But I don't know how you lot are feeling. You've still got an outside chance of the playoffs, so
we've got a bizarrely reasonable chance of the playoffs, considering where we were a few months ago. All our injured players essentially are back, and they were like big names, and the new signings have settled in really, really quickly. We've got a strange good chance. If we'd won yesterday against Barrow, we would have been in the playoff spot. I think we're only 2 points behind, and then we're not that far behind third because we've been concentrating on sort of seventh. For a lot. It's we're nearly there. And then I just glanced upwards the other week and went, that's only 6 points off. What the hell is going on here? So, I don't know what the hell the rest of the league are playing at. If Sutton have had the start they had, and there's still a good chance of getting into the playoffs. I don't know what everyone else is trying, because we weren't.
I'll be honest, this league is shit. Like, every team is pretty shit. The teams that are doing well are like Carlisle are the perfect example. They played us a couple of weeks after the Southampton game, and we were dead on our feet, and they still, we had to travel from Southampton to Carlisle midweek, and we still played half decent against them, and we were the better team. It's like no one is really, even like Stevenage are a bit, well, they are, aren't they? And Leyton Orient were okay, but not incredible. This team, you just need to have worked out where your strengths are, be solid at the back, and have a guy who's just in a rich vein of form or in front of goal, and then you're fine.
Yeah, we missed that one element because most of our goals come from around the team.
Yeah.
So we missed that one little element. But what prediction? Do you want to give it a prediction?
You're going to win 2-0, and we're not even, well, in fact, we're not even going to bother turning up. You can win 3-0 by default. And then that's what we'll do. And we'll just we'll just be watching it on iFollow in the corner going, well, no one turned up. That's fine. It's going to be like that Scotland-San Marino game. You guys are just going to walk out, empty pitch, kick off, game's done. Or go, oh, we're going to fine you 20 grand. Oh, that's a shame. Have some of the ticket money.
Excellent. Well, obviously, I hope that goes to plan on Tuesday, and I hope the weekend goes to plan as well.
Just don't hurt us. Stop. Do you need to make that tackle? Do you really need to make it? Is all I'm going to say.
We'll have a couple of players growling at yours for a little bit, and
just lots of Grimsby players shouting, "Not the face!" For 90 minutes.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Alex.
No problem.
Good luck, as I say, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
See you later.
And that was Alex from the DN35. Johnny, what are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, you said it at the start, really, didn't you? I mean, they've got their FA Cup quarter-final. They've also got not really a lot to play for in the league. I don't think they're not going to go down, but they're certainly too far off the playoffs to have much of a chance of that as well. So hopefully they'll be eyes off the ball, make a few changes, disjointed, no people trying to, not to get injured, stuff like that. The flip side of it, and there is a chance this will happen as well, is that they've got a squad of players where 5 or 6 of them are trying to play for a place in the team against Brighton. So you might have a case where they've made 5 or 6 changes. It's 5 or 6 players playing the game of their lives to try and get in the team. I remember Adam May, when we had our FA Cup run, and the week before we played Leeds, we had Worthing in a cup week. And Adam May wasn't first team regular at that point, came into the team against Worthing, played the absolute game of his life. I think he scored at least one of them to score. He got in the team for the Leeds game and played very well. I think he played against Arsenal as well from the start. So I always think back to Adam May in the situation. But yeah, hopefully it's the former. Hopefully their eyes are off the ball, and we're always good at home. Always backers at home. So I think it's important to win it. You look at to get in the playoffs, we're off the pace at the minute in that we're behind where we need to be. We're on form, but we've still got ground to make up. That's what I mean by that. So we've got to win more than we draw. And yeah, your home games against teams in FA Cup quarterfinals the next week, I think you've got to look at as when you've got to try and win it. Really. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, Alex did kind of say that he feels a lot of the players have been, no, after you, just don't injure me, off you go, take the ball. So he's not sure how they're going to cope with our physical play. I did kind of point out that before we played Arsenal, the week before we played Dover in that really, really exciting 6-0 defeat, which just was like, it was freezing cold as well. But we are Sutton, so we go into these games that we should win this. Yeah. We struggle, we huff and puff.
Yeah, true. I mean, the Crawley game, I was kind of worried that was, we were saying in the pub before, that's the sort of game where we would struggle historically against a team at the bottom of the league in crisis, protest against the own. We were comfortable. So it's all very unusual to be so assured in this situation.
It does seem very, very odd going. I mean, even at Barrow, watching that game, yes, obviously we know it's 0-0, we know all the scores, but the last 10-15 minutes seemed to be all us. The pressure was coming from us, which just proves, as Matt has been saying, that the fitness of the players is just astonishing, and sort of trying to steamroll teams in the last sort of part of the game, which we alluded to earlier with the subs as well. I did say I think we're going to huff and puff a little bit, but overcome them towards the end of the match, and sort of 2-0-ish, I think. Hopefully. I don't think I've got one right so far, so score-wise. But yeah, the season as a whole, I mean, we mentioned obviously Ben being out and struggling at the start of the season. We're only 2 points away now from where this time last year, which when I first started working out a couple of weeks ago, I was like, I can't believe we're that close. How would you compare the two so far?
Season of two halves. I think the first half of the season, like say injuries, I don't think the summer recruitment as well was probably what Matt was hoping. It players like Kwame Thomas, who haven't really featured as part of the team, so probably a little bit weaker in the first half of the season than we were last season. And it looked like it would be a relegation battle, albeit one where we would probably come out on top and tend to beat the teams around us, didn't we? Like 1-0 win against Rochdale, penalty against Colchester. And you're thinking we've got enough in the bag to stay up here, but not a lot more. January transfer window. A few good signings in there, which made all the difference. You've got players coming back from injury like Ben, which is a new signing. And in the second half of the season, we've been like we were last season. I think that's probably the closest you compare. We've been fantastic, exciting to watch. It's just a shame we were so far back from the playoffs around January time. Otherwise, we'd probably be well inside and looking at automatic promotion. So even if we don't get in the playoffs, and I think we've got a good chance, but I'm not going to expect anything. We still do have ground to make up. But even if we don't, then we can hopefully take that through to next season. Avoid these. Try and keep the players that we've got now. David Adjable, crucial in that. See where we end up.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, stupid to be even considering this as a Sutton United supporter, but last week I looked beyond the 7th spot and I was like, well, actually, hang on a minute, we're not just going for that playoff spot. I think we're 2 off the playoffs, 1 or 2 off the playoffs. My league table won't be up. We're only a few more off the 3rd spot, and if we did go on one of those runs that we know we can, we could sneak in there, which is even more ridiculous.
Yeah, we'd have to be very good, wouldn't we?
To think about.
You'll have the teams ahead of us now. You've got some fantastic sides with a lot of money. Stockport, Bradford's. I know Mansfield are level with 3 games in hand, and it would only take one of them to go on a strong run. And even if we won every game,
to go on a run as well.
So yeah,
we've. I think we need something like 21 to match last season, which should get us in the playoffs this time. I think we need 21 points from the last 10, which can be done, obviously, but with some of the teams we're playing, would be a bit of a stretch. But to even be in a position to talk about it, if you think where we were sort of September, October time, to be able to say, well, in March you'd be talking about the playoffs is absolutely brilliant. Well, going to wrap it up. Thank you very much for your time. Don't forget the book is in the club shop, £15, and follow Johnny at 6 Added because it's a good 6 Added. We like that one. It's not the cup final 6 Added. Thanks to everyone for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.
United! United! United!